Hello in the name of God. I am Mohammed Mahdi Abuturabai. Today, I will teach you how to use the output textures taken by other software to the Blender software. I use Blender software version 2.9. To support more versions for sale in the market. This is the Blender software environment. When you open the software, there is a cube in the center of the scene. In this section, I enter the shading section. This is related to the scene materials. When you click on any object in the scene, the name of that object will be highlighted in this section. You can see the material settings in the Material Properties section. This is where we need to add the textures to make the material. For example, I want to import the textures of this material into the scene and create the PBR material. First, I add base color. All the textures you draw and import are imported on sRGB mode. Let base color stay on sRGB. I attribute this directly to base color. You can see that it was displayed on the cube. I entered this texture by mistake. I will delete it and add height. And add metallic, normal, opacity, roughness. Now we proceed in order. There is another shortcut method to import these files as a group, which I will teach you in the future. But you need to learn the main method first. This is the roughness map. I set the color space to non-color. This point is very important. In standard materials, except the base color map, the others should be set to non-color mode. So at this step, I will set these maps to non-color mode. I connect the roughness to the roughness input. Then I can connect metallic. Then I add the normal map. The order of this connection is not important, the choice is yours. I will add the normal map, but one point should be noted. A normal map node must also be placed in the path of the normal connection. By placing this node in the path, it will be automatically connected. Okay, the next point. Next point is that my normal map is exported with the Directs template from Substance Designer software. There are two types of templates for the normal map, Directs and Open. Usually, the normal map that is output using the Directs method looks inverted. That is, the highlighted parts of the material are seen as sunken, and the sunken parts are seen as highlighted. You should pay attention when outputting the normal map in the basic software, whether you output it as Directs or OpenWorld. Blender software supports the OpenWorld model. With a little attention, we notice that the depth of the material is being displayed in reverse. And it creates wrong shadows with the light radiation, because my normal map is made with Directs template. To correct it, I add an RGB curve node to the path. And I reverse the chart of the green channel. Actually, by inverting the green color, the Directs pattern changes to the OpenWorld pattern. If I connect it directly, the normal is displayed incorrectly, and when I connect it to the curve node, the material is displayed correctly. Okay. Then we go to the next channel, the opacity channel. My material can be lace. So I connect the opacity to the alpha input. Alpha section here. We can see that these parts are black. To correct it, I select the cube, and from the Material Properties section, I set Blending Mode to Alpha Clip Mode, and Shadow Mode to the same. You can see that the problem is solved. Then we go to the last step. Height map should not be directly connected to this part, but it should be connected to this part, Material Output. From color to displacement. Like normal map, height map needs an intermediary node. Displacement. I connect to the height input instead of the normal input. Therefore, height must be connected to displacement and displacement directly to the displacement input, height map to the height input. Displacement intensity can be specified through these settings. There is another point that may be useful for you. There are several rendering engines by default in Blender software. In the Render Properties section, the Eve engine is enabled by default. I will change it to the Cycle rendering engine, which is a more advanced rendering engine than the Eve rendering engine, and you can see that the picture became a little more realistic. I did this to see the effect of displacement. The material I chose, displacement, is very detailed and not very obvious. To display displace on the object, you need to increase the divisions of your object. As you can see, the divisions of this object are very low. To display displacement, these divisions must be increased. I add a modifier from the Modifier Properties section. Subdivision Surface. To prevent object softening, I set it to Simple Mode, and to soften the object, I set it to Catmull-Clark mode. By increasing this value, the divisions increase. By removing the optimal display tick, these divisions can be seen. By selecting the Cycle rendering engine, a section will be added in the Material Properties and in the Settings section. In the Surface and Displacement section, I set it to Displacement Only mode. You can see that displace was applied to the surface. For more control, I set the scale value to 0.01 in the Displacement section. It is too low. I set it to 0.1. My chosen material does not need much displace, and the main details added on the normal map. In materials such as brick and stone and similar, the displace map will be more useful. And to better see the effect of displace, they can be used. In general, as a seller of PBR material, we may not need to observe the intensity of displace on the object. I did this part to familiarize you with how displace works in Blender software. Well, I can return the rendering engine to Eve mode. And OK. So now we have learned how to use these maps: base color, roughness, opacity, metallic, normal, and height map. I can remove this modifier before finishing the work. By clicking on this section, the modifier will be removed because we no longer need this modifier in the scene. This object and its material are ready. Now, to prepare the output, we can proceed from the Export section, or we can save the Blender file. I click on the Save option. You can enter the address from this section and save it. As an example, I enter the name in this section and save it. Let us check. The Blender file was saved with a size of 790 kilobytes. Blender software allows you to save the files used in the scene in the Blender file. I think it is a very good possibility. Instead of placing the textures next to the main file, they can be saved inside the file so that there is no problem with addressing. For this purpose, after saving the file, I refer to the external data section, and I select the automatic pack into blend option and save again. The test file is saved. I will check again now. I refresh. As you can see, the size of the file has increased to 100 megabytes. The reason for this increase in size is the addition of maps to the main file. And by calling this file, all textures will be loaded automatically. Thank you for your support. I leave you to great God.